Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Rethinking podcast. Today, we talk with Clara Etchenique, founder and former chair of Rethinking Rotterdam. With her, we talk about what it takes to build a local group, to get funding, differences in economic education between the Netherlands and France, and so much more. So, thank you for being here and enjoy this week's episode. Hey Clara, thank you so much for joining me. What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Well, I've been in vacation mostly. I've been mostly in vacation. Finishing my bachelor, finishing my thesis, and freshly graduated. So I'm just enjoying at the moment.
Cool! That sounds amazing, actually. And the place where you are, it looks so sunny and nice. That's the perfect place for a vacation.
I can't complain. I can't complain.
So you're finishing your bachelor. What was the bachelor in?
I was doing the IBEP bachelor in Rotterdam, which is a bachelor in economics and business economics. And it's just quite a regular bachelor here in the Netherlands. So I was just doing this, and I was majoring in behavioral economics.
Oh, cool. Is that what you want to pursue after the bachelor?
Not really, actually. I was doing behavioral economics for the only reason that it was a little bit less inside the box, more outside the box than all the other majors I had being offered to me. So that was the reason. And I also knew that the choice of the thesis was a little bit more free than any other major. So I wanted to do this in order to kind of write my thesis on a topic that was close to the environment and sustainability. So yeah, that was the reason.
Oh, cool. So that is what you wrote your thesis on, the environment, sustainability?
Yeah, I wrote my thesis on, actually it's quite a rethinking economics topic. I didn't find anything though, because I had to find my own data, and yeah, the results were insignificant, but the subject was to find a link of the economics education on environmental behaviors, and to kind of show that learning about the Homo economicus, which is basically what we learn at school or at university levels, all the theories that we learn are mainly based on that assumption. And so I wanted to show that learning all of this could potentially lead to less pro-environmental behaviors than for any other type of studies. But it's really difficult to find an actual educational effect. There's very little literature about it. So I didn't really have a lot of kind of comparison I could compare my study to. But it's a growing research focus. So maybe in a few years there'll be some more research.
Cool. So, wait, you said natural learning effect? What is that?
I said educational effects. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, educational effects. Yeah. So to see whether or not, education can actually have an effect on pro-environmental behaviors, or But the thing is, there's always, education is never the same, right? In different universities, so there's always little things that can come affect the outcome more than the education itself. So it's I would have needed way more budget and way more time to actually find something for my thesis. So that was a little bit disappointing, but that's the rules of the game of a bachelor thesis. So that's all right.
That's fair. So what are you planning to do after it?
So I'm planning to start at the VU in Austria, in Vienna. I'm going to start a master in socio-ecological economics and politics. It's one of the very few master that is actually quite pluralistic and interdisciplinary. So a lot of rethinkers are going there, I think. And I was lucky enough to get selected. So I'm very excited to start there and be able to finally study a little bit more of natural resources and their link to the economy, and how we can kind of plan a better future than the one we have at the moment. So yeah.
Cool. So how did you get into that? How did you get into pluralistic economics? or economics at all? How did you get into economics?
I think just like most people at school, I had economics and at high school, and I really liked it. But mostly, what was really interesting is that I mostly liked it because I felt like it was a little bit of history mixed together with philosophy. So the math aspect to me wasn't really present at that time because I was, in school when we teach economics, we teach it together with social sciences because we have a lot of like social science, but also sociology mainly because we have a lot of sociologues in France that are quite famous. And so to a certain extent, the math aspect was completely out of the spectrum when I was learning economics. And I felt like it was just a lot of theories and big people that try to kind of explain the world and how it works. And I just thought it was quite fascinating. So I really liked that aspect. So that's why I chose to follow my studies in economics. But I was quite disappointed when I arrived in Erasmus especially because Erasmus University is so focused on the mathematical aspect and on the quantitative aspect of economics. They really cherish econometrics studies, econometrics methods, which I think is fair to have that. But I also really, really missed the other aspect of what economics should be. And I also felt like it was too often showed as a kind of hard science, and it was so different from the way I had learned it that I knew something was odd. A lot of people were like, well, I don't understand what's your problem, like we are learning economics, it's numbers, why are you complaining? And I was like, no, I know we can do it differently. I know we can explain certain things using sociology. I know that it's not a hard science. I know that those are models, those are ideas, and I know there are different ideas. And I have learned of other people that we are not talking about today. So yeah, I had that perspective, and I could see that there was a problem, but I didn't have any like other place to fall on, and I didn't know where to turn in order to kind of feel satisfied by my studies. But then I had one of my best friend that was also complaining all the time with me, and funny enough, she went to this TED talk that was given by Kate Raworth, and she came to her at the end of the talk, and she was like, "Oh my God, like you have no idea, like here it's so different, and we miss things like this, and we're so sad here." And so Kate Raworth told her, "Well, you should probably check out Rethinking Economics." So she signed her book, and then my friend texted me, and she's like, Clara, we need to go. We need to see Rethinking Economics. And I was like, okay, if she says so. And so we actually checked it out, and that's how I got to know Rethinking Economics. But yeah, that was a little bit of a coincidence, at least for me. So yeah, that's how I kind of got to rethinking and got to pluralism, because I didn't know what it was before.
Wow, that is such a cool story. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. So
Yeah.
economics really was different for you between France and the
Yeah.
Netherlands. And
Yeah.
you didn't know that before you got to the Netherlands?
No, not at all. I was a little bit naive, I guess, but yeah, I knew I was going to do. I knew I was going to do a little bit of math, but I didn't know it would be that much. I didn't know there was no place for in-class debates or in-class discussions. I mean, because I was in France in my high school. Maybe it was because I was very lucky in my high school, but my teacher in high school would always bring up debates. He would make us read the news every morning, so we have to kind of talk about economics, but real world economics. So it was completely different. So maybe I was lucky in my high school, but I also think that there's something with French education, because of the history we have in terms of sociology being a science that, being a field that is highly recognized, and where we have a lot of thinkers and quite famous people. So I think that's mainly the reason why potentially in France they teach it differently, because they put together sociology and economics, at least in high school. I don't know about universities because I've never studied there, but at least in high school, for sure.
So why did you study in the Netherlands instead of France then? Economics?
I just wanted to go abroad again. I've been to Brazil when I was 15 for an exchange. And I did an exchange of a year alone. So I was in families and stuff. Yeah. So when I came back, I had to finish my high school, and I was like, okay, I'm going again somewhere after this. I can't stay. I just wanted to go somewhere, and I needed to have something that was affordable in English and meeting my expectations in terms of education. And at that time, there was no, like, I could not go to the UK. It was too expensive. Classic. So a friend of mine was Dutch and told me that she was studying in English, and then I was like, oh, really? I guess I'm gonna come to the Netherlands then. So that was the main driver.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So then you got to the Netherlands and you studied at Rotterdam. Was it like, what did you miss? What was some things that you really liked about studying a bachelor in the Netherlands, or bachelor in economics?
Um, yeah, what did I miss? I mainly missed the pluralistic approach and interdisciplinarity that was really missing from my bachelor. That was mainly it. But also I would say like the critical mindset. And I feel, okay, maybe French people are too often kind of going for debate and protesting in any forms. We are people that kind of really engage a lot in discussions. It can be too much for certain people, but I have to say that for me, it was really lacking from the education I got at the Erasmus, and I felt like it was really difficult to get to in-class debates or discussions, or even just a normal conversation with a professor was really difficult. Because it just feels like they don't even want to. They're just really distant from their students, and they don't really want to engage in any ways. And that was quite difficult, I felt. But I mean, again, I haven't studied in France, so I can't really have a true comparison. But yeah, something I felt was missing was probably this, I would say.
Okay. So then Kate Raworth got you and your friends into Rethinking Economics. How did
Yeah.
that go?
Yeah, it was at first I didn't really understand what it was. So I subscribed to the newsletter. I was receiving some stuff, but I was like, okay. I didn't know there was one in the Netherlands. I just followed the international one, and at first I was really not really understanding what it was. I just kind of let it pass after Christmas and so, and then I saw that the festival was coming up from Rethinking Netherlands, and then I was like, okay, well, I guess that's the opportunity to kind of go. And also, the main reason why I didn't go before is because Erasmus University is a very, very tough university for first years. They really try to kill you. I think that would be the right way to say it. They really try to kill you. They just keep on giving you very, very difficult subjects one after the other. The exams are super, super hard. So the first year you kind of are in a surviving mode. So even though I was extremely frustrated, I was not really ready to kind of find a solution to my frustration, because I was just barely managing to get my grades high enough to not fall off of the train. And so when the festival came up, it was nearly the end of the first year, so I felt a little bit more comfortable with free time. So I actually went to the festival, and it was a lot of fun. I really discovered there that, okay, I'm not alone. There's a lot of people that think exactly the same way as I do. We had a nice introduction by a feminist economist, a professor, I think from Edinburgh, that was there. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I think from Edinburgh. That was there to give a keynote at the very beginning, and I was like, wow, feminist economics, it actually is a thing. And I go, wow. So yeah, it was just like eye-opening in any sense of the way, and yeah, so nice to feel like, okay, there's a community, you're not alone, you can actually, feel comfortable with your own way of thinking. Because when you're confronted at school to everyone thinking the same way, and you're the only one that doesn't understand why things are working a certain way and why, it can be a little bit, I tend to doubt myself a lot. So when I realized I wasn't alone, I was like, okay, I felt empowered in a lot of ways. So it was really, really nice.
That's amazing. So then, did you join Rethinking Economics NL? What happened then?
Yeah, right after, right after I joined, and they actually contacted me. They were super, super nice, and yeah, they contacted me again to invite me, because Kate Rowers after that gave a speech as well at I don't remember exactly where, but it was like for the government. And so she gave a speech there in The Hague, and she invited Rethinking, and Rethinking said to me that I could come. I was like, oh wow, yeah, please. So it was really nice. And then yeah, I just applied as soon as possible and got started the year after for real, because yeah, the first months were kind of the end of the year, so not a lot happened. But then the next year onwards, I was actively working for Rethinking.
Cool. So what did you do? Did you do projects?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I started working for Rethinking Netherlands. There was only Rethinking Netherlands as a sort of national group. So we started to, I started actually every event I could attend, I tried to go, and I tried to participate. There was this very cool project. It was a pilot project at the time, which was a high school tour project. And the idea was to reach out to high school students and to try to talk to them a little bit about pluralism in economics and real world economics. And to a certain extent, I thought that was clever, because that allows for them to realize that what I didn't realize when I was at high school is that what you're taught at this moment is not going to be the same once you go at university. So right now, maybe you love economics, but once you're going to get there, university is so far away from what you thought it would be, you may get really frustrated like I did. So what I thought was interesting with this project is that it's supposed to kind of, show you what actually happens in university. So we kind of show them, our reports, and show them that Erasmus University, for instance, is doing quite poorly in terms of pluralism and real world economics. We kind of try to show them a map and say to them, when you make your choice, at least try to kind of look into those kind of metrics as well, and choose wisely what you actually are looking for, because there are universities that are more suited to what you actually are looking for. If you like to do a lot of econometrics and math, okay, Erasmus University might be the best university for you. But if you're more, hinting towards pluralism and interdisciplinarity, there's other universities for you. So that was a very cool project. And yeah, that was really interesting. And I really loved doing this. So we were doing this for a little bit. We did like one pilot project, then we went to a conference for high school teachers. Yeah, it was interesting because the high school teachers told us that their curricula is quite free in the Netherlands, at least, which means that on the one hand, it might be that some universities, for instance, some schools are not so much hinting towards pluralism, but some others are not constrained by mainstream. They can go towards pluralism if they wish to. And so some teachers were saying that, yeah, because of this freedom, they were able to be very creative and having a lot of fun with the subject of economics. Whereas if the curricula was a little bit more bounded, this freedom would go away, and potentially, there was less room for that kind of ideas, like the ideas that Rethinking Economics is kind of promoting. So that was really interesting, because we were kind of saying to those professors that we would like to see changes in the high school curricula as well, because some pluralism and some some I think more diversity could be introduced at certain places. But they were saying to us, well, yeah, that's true, but if you do that, then we lose our freedom to actually go beyond that. So that was quite interesting as well. And yeah, so we did that. It was really fun. And yeah, and then Eliza, the chair at the time, asked me to do an event in Rotterdam. So I had to do my first big event on my own. I was petrified. Yeah, I
That is
was
so
petrified.
impressive, though.
Yeah, I was petrified. She was like, yeah, it would be nice to have an event in Rotterdam. Like, you have a free card, like blank page, go wild. I was like, okay. So I started going very wild. Maybe too wild. The first event was a little bit too busy. But it was really nice. Like, we had quite a lot of people joining, and it was a really big process to actually organize that, because I had never contacted any professors before. I had never organized anything. So it was everything from a blank start. And so I started getting in touch with with some partners at the university, because it's very strange at the Erasmus University. You cannot organize anything if you're not official. There's no room for you. You need to pay. If you want to have a room, you need to pay. It's extremely expensive. So if you want to organize something, you need to have partners that already have a sort of establishment, recognition from the university. Otherwise, you can simply not do anything. So I started having ideas that were linked to this. I needed to form, a sort of event that would be interesting for other parties. So that's why we started working on sustainability. Because there is a very big association called Erasmus Sustainability Hub, and they were quite recognized at the university, but also open enough for us, because there's other associations on campus like EFR, but EFR is definitely not interested by rethinking economics. EFR is extremely mainstream, very, very neoclassical way of thinking. So, we have been in touch with them in the past, and they were never very welcoming. So we knew that was not going to work. And so I needed to start thinking about people that would not have this mainstream look on us. And Erasmus Sustainability Hub was quite the best partner for that. So we decided to do an event around the topic of sustainability, but sustainability in practice. The idea was to confront, the fact that sustainability is such a beautiful word, and of course we all want to tend towards sustainability, but in practice, very often it kind of fails. And I was quite negative and pessimistic. I think I'm pessimistic by nature, but so sustainability before was a little bit of a word that I didn't always kind of see, as something very realistic. And so I decided to do this event around, sustainability in practice. And I wanted to have a philosophical introduction to sustainability. So we had the first 15 to 20 minutes, I don't remember exactly, an introduction by someone that actually did his master in philosophy and philosophy of the environment. And he gave a little introduction of what is sustainability. And then we kind of confronted this idea with what actually happens. So we had an economist that is Stanislav Shmelev. He's specialized in ecological economics. And we had also, I don't remember his name, terrible. And it was specialized actually from the University of Groningen in sustainable entrepreneurship. He's a very cool professor. If I remember his name, I will write it for you somewhere. Very interesting. And so the event was built this way. But because it was my first event, it was a little bit messy and all around. I didn't manage the time. I didn't, to anyone that starts working for an association, the first event is always a little bit of a test. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And at the end, the professors, they're quite nice about it. And if you tell them as well that it's your first time, they will be fine with it. But in terms of time management, that was very difficult. So don't be too, just an advice out there for people that wants to start and organize an event, don't do too big, start small. Because otherwise you'll learn from it. I did. The event was way too big. It was crazy, but well. People were still happy at the end, but it was a little bit of a all over the place kind of thing. But
I
yeah.
mean, but I guess you did learn from it, because then, I mean, then what did you do? You started your group in Rotterdam?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the first cornerstone because I mean at that time when Elisa asked me to do this event, we didn't want to kind of have a lot of local groups. The idea was more let's have a very strong national group, and later if needed we will decide what to do. But for now it was more of an embassy. We called it an embassy. So at the beginning, I was just an ambassador for Rethinking Netherlands. And so the first event was just a sort of, I was supposed to build something that was just sort of a window of what Rethinking does. So to that effect, I had to organize this event and sort of create a Facebook page and try to create a sort of community already, but that I would always kind of send back to Rethinking Netherlands. So I would kind of be just the information holder, and that was kind of at the beginning. That was the idea, and that was my job, let's say. And then we actually kind of grew very fast. We had a lot of partners that were quite interested in us in Rotterdam. A lot of associations kind of enjoyed the fact that we were doing stuff, and they started kind of asking for more as well. And then 2019, came to an end. The academic year started again for September 2019, and then Mark was a new chair. And because we had grew so much as an association, we had decided to kind of take a step forward, and that's where he asked me to create the local group in Rotterdam. So that was the real beginning, I would say.
Okay, so what did you think when he asked that?
I thought that was going to be very difficult because I knew that, when you start, even if it's a branch, it needs to be sustainable in time, and you need to build a team, a real team. For the moment, I was mainly alone, and I was having some friends helping me here and there in Rotterdam, but that was mainly just me. And you cannot sustain an association without having other people in that can actually help you do everything. That also meant that we needed a budget, because it's not sustainable to have Rethinking Netherlands always, fueling you with money. So I knew that I needed to find a way to find a budget, which is also, I mean, I knew from previous treasurer that had talked to me about it, that it was very difficult to get budgets and get funded. So I was a little bit scared of that, I have to say. And I was also in my third year, so I knew that I was going to write my thesis, that I was potentially going to apply to other places, to go abroad again somewhere else. So I was really freaking out. And at first I said no. I said that I was not feeling it, that was not going to work. But then Mark actually introduced me to actually the co-founder now of Rethinking Rotterdam, Enrika, and she was coming from Germany. She had a lot more experience than I have, a little bit older than me. And we had a coffee all together, and then she said to me that she was totally in, very excited, and that was the real beginning. I was like, okay, I'm not alone. Let's start. Let's do this. And that was the launch. We started working towards creating the local group, and that was an exciting time. Like, we just sat down, started dreaming about what we're gonna do, and start thinking about, we can make a video series, and we started dreaming super big. And I didn't think it would actually come through. It did, which is crazy. But I'm so excited about the video series. It's very exciting. But so we started dreaming big, and that was very exciting times. And then we actually had to do the actual work, which was hard. It was very hard. Because then you have to contact again all the associations you were partners with, and try to kind of make sure that your link is still alive, although the teams have changed. So first, that's the first step, and then try to find opportunities for budgets. And luckily we found the CLI, which is a community for learning and innovation in Erasmus University. which sounds small associations like ours that are innovating education. So that was perfect for us. And we started the application process, but the application process was extremely difficult. It was very time consuming, and I think administrations everywhere are complicated. But yeah, the administration of the CLI can be a little bit tricky, and we didn't really know what had to be inside the application process. We had to budget everything, so it was a lot of work. But at the end we had our budget, so that was nice. But it was really, really long, and build a team as well. So we started recruiting again, and recruiting is difficult as well. I think even though, we had a name that had kind of been created already for Rethinking, because I had been creating the Facebook page, and we had been doing quite a lot of events on the previous year, people were still confused about what we were, who are we, and what are we going to do. Especially since at that time we were still in the process of getting the application process, getting the money. So we had a lot of plans, but not yet any means to make them happen. So it was a lot of talking without actual things there. So eventually in January, after 5 or 6 months, we had the team that was actually there, and we had managed to recruit, and we were like 10 to 15 people. So we had enough people to get started. And we had done some events in order for them to actually also reach out afterwards and for the recruitment. Those events were quite successful. We actually received Danny Roderick, so that was a lot of fun as well when he came to Rotterdam. We had some few events to kind of hook them, and then and then when they were actually there, we asked them if they wanted to stay, and luckily for us, they did, and they helped us build the video project, and they also helped for all the events that were planned before the coronavirus. So.
How did you bring them in? What kind of events did you do to get them hooked?
First, social events are quite important. I think everyone wants to relax and just have a beer or so after studying. So that's always a good idea, to just organize a social event is always a good idea. So we had few of them, and it was a lot of fun. Also I think it's always important to have the social events to kind of get to know people more personally and have a little bit more time individually to get to know people. So that's always a good idea. It's always a good idea as well for having everyone sitting around a small table with a beer also allows for discussions and breaking the ice, and having also some rethinking discussions going on, and talking about the news, talking about the environment, talking about the economy. All of those things kind of align. So it's always a nice thing to do. And then we had some events that were more targeted towards kind of showing what rethinking is. So we had a workshop on pluralism. That was funny though, because we had used this workshop for the high school projects, and that was already too much. They couldn't follow it. It was too technical. It was too hard. So we decided to reuse it, but for more university students. So for the workshop. But even for the workshop, it was too much. Because what you actually see when you do the workshop, and that's the interesting thing, is that for the workshop, so basically people they were presented with a school of thought, and they were organized in teams of, I think, 4 to 5 people, and they had to they were given a school of thought, and they had to debate and try to find arguments using the school of thought to debate a subject that is currently debated, or at least in the news. So we talked about unemployment, or I think the subprime crisis, or some, quite things that can be debated in our real world economics, using the school of thought. And we had, I think, neoclassical, we had post-Keynesians, we had, I think, ecological economics as well, and another one, another one. And what is really interesting is that everyone had such a difficult time using economics ideas to actually debate something real. So that was the first thing. And they were mostly economics students, like second year, third year. Some first years were actually better than the second and third year. I don't know why, but that was the thing. And you could actually see that it was difficult for them to actually use real ideas and apply them to real world problems. So that kind of shows that there is a problem in our education, or at least in Erasmus School of Economics education. And then the second thing that I saw that was quite interesting and funny is that technically the people that had been in the classical school should have had a better time, right? It should be easier for them because that's what they learn at school every day. But even they didn't have a clue how to use those ideas and those theories. So that kind of shows that there is a huge problem. And it was actually eye-opening for them as well, because at the end they told us that it kind of showed them that they should know how to do this, and they didn't. So yeah, so it was really interesting, but it was quite hard for most people. So we need to find a way to make it a bit more accessible, but because we gave them a lot of information about the School of Thoughts, but even that wasn't enough. So there is a clear lack of knowledge about the different school of thoughts and what their, what their main ideas are and how to use those ideas for real world problems. So yeah, that was one of the things we did, and it worked. It worked.
That shows very well the point that Rethinking makes, right? With being able to apply it to real world problems. That is some exposure that really makes you rethink how we teach economics. And then, so you did this, you got a team, and then you did a video project?
I didn't work so much on the video project. I was more in the kind of back, at the back, trying to get more funding. So I wasn't really working actively on the video project. I was part of the creation of the idea. We brainstormed it with Enrica in the very, very beginning of the creation of Rethinking. And we had this idea that, it's so difficult to kind of show the legitimacy of pluralism in explaining certain concepts or in explaining certain economic phenomena or natural phenomena, and how they can be how pluralism can actually be a solution. Sometimes it is difficult to explain it to people, and so we were like, well, we need to find a way to make it more accessible and more easily understandable. We felt like we needed to have more educational tools to show when we go around, during our workshops or stuff like that, and we felt like that was really missing. We needed something that could explain why pluralism is important to give a solution to a certain thing. And of course, the biggest, point of debate and the things is more worrying at the moment is, of course, climate change. So we thought, okay, why not actually doing videos that would explain climate change and the solution to climate change using the different, school of thoughts and what are their thoughts about it. And so that's how it was created at the very beginning. And then, of course, a lot of work, happened during the last month to make it come alive. I was not part of this editing and researching phase. I was more organizing the other events that we were technically having, but because of Corona, they were all transformed or canceled. So I was more taking care of that. And then I was also applying for more budgets so that we could actually make illustrations that would be a little bit more elevated, because otherwise we didn't want to sacrifice on quality. We wanted to have something that would be very good, especially since the budget we were, allowed by the CLI was quite high. So we were like, why are we not, taking full advantage of it? We want to do something that is big. Let's just, put the money where our mouth is and actually do it well. So I was more taking care of this, and I will be taking care of the promotion, which is coming soon, hopefully in October. So,
cool. So how does that work? How does the whole budgeting thing situation, how does that all work? Do you have to draw up a proposal? Like,
Yeah, you have to draw a proposal. I guess it depends in each. I think it's specific to each place where you apply for budget. But the CLI, it's founding you. Two possibilities. The CLI can found you in terms of partnerships. So you become a partner of this CLI. I mean, actually, it's student for student because the CLI is kind of the daddy of the student for students. And so they can be your partners, and then you receive funding as an association partner to Student for Students, or you can become a sort of, I don't really know the exact term, but they basically just found, the second option is if they found only your projects. So you apply per project. We decided to become partners because we knew that we had, we fitted the description. We are an association that aims for the innovation of education. So there was no question being asked, so we decided to apply as partners. And it still requires from partners to actually say what they aim to do as their partner. Because of course you have to justify that you are an innovating education. So that was aimed for that. And so we listed all the projects we had in mind and the budget we thought it would cost. Obviously, we were extremely wrong with the video project because we had no experience whatsoever. And the thing is, you cannot get any upfront budget from not upfront budget, but upfront bill from the video editors or whatever. It was too early for us to say, oh, we think it's going to cost that. We had no idea. So we didn't even know we would need an illustrator, an editor, and a filmmaker. that came later. At first we thought, oh, one person can do the three, but no, it doesn't work that way. So yeah, we decided after all to hire other people, independent filmmaker, editor, and illustrator. But yeah, so the idea is to kind of try to arrive to a provision, or at least an estimation of how much you're gonna spend on each project. But it's all right if you don't get it right. It's fine. we got away with it. We justified it, but yeah, we got away with it.
Yeah. So what did you learn from this project? Because you'd never done something like this before. A lot of things changed during the project. Corona came in during the project. What did you learn?
Yeah, I think I learned everything. I didn't know anything about, working in an association before Rethinking, and yeah, it's very enriching. I mean, I've learned how to do budgeting. I've learned how to do proper accounting. Real world accounting, managing a team. All of those things I didn't know how to do before. Of course, you make mistakes. I made mistakes, a lot of them, but I've learned all of those things. And of course, what I thought was the most troubling was the coronavirus crisis that really came unexpectedly. We had all of our big events during the coronavirus outbreak. So to kind of see all of your efforts and all of your projects that go right into the bin so close to the date. I think we were supposed to have an event 2 weeks after. I mean, it was really coming super close, and so that was very, very difficult, but that I think was one of the most enriching parts, because then we had to kind of be like, okay, this is happening, what do we do now? How do we survive? We don't want to we don't want to have our teams that think that they're alone. We want them to feel supported as a community. We are a community, before anything else. So what do we do for that? What do we do for the events? We need to find ways to still have them happening in a certain way. So all of this had to kind of, work and be done. And that was very enriching, to kind of be creative and most importantly, think wisely in a time of crisis and make sure everyone is satisfied and feels supported. I think some people maybe did not like our approach, because we decided to keep going, and we went online. We did a lot of live events through Zoom. We did a lot of also articles that we published. on our websites. And some people did not like that because they felt like that was not the right time. Some people don't think it's a good idea to do things during a pandemic. I think both, there was both feedback. A lot of people told us they were really, really happy stuff were still going on and they felt really supported, and others felt like that was the wrong thing to do. So I don't really know. Personally, I cannot be the judge of that. I'm personally happy that we still managed to do some stuff, but it's I think in both ways it was very enriching, and I learned a lot for sure.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's so impressive how quick you moved then from everything in real life to, okay, we're going to do everything online. How are we going to change all of them? I don't know what kind of projects you had, but to put them all online, that must have been.
Well, the video project.
Yeah.
The video project had to be redesigned. That's why, I mean, for the ones that will be looking at the videos in the future, you will see maybe in the sound that those are, Zoom calls. You will probably notice it on the sound system. So we had to do everything by Zoom, and also doing all of our meetings via Zoom as well. When your team is so young, I think that was for us what was the hardest, is that our team was brand new. We had our new team since January, and they had worked quite hard to see those events. And then they had worked, but they didn't have the outcome that was actually tangible. And I think so. The biggest challenge was that. And then we decided to still try to do some stuff, but it was, I think, mainly like all this. Articles, interviews of authors or professors that we had originally planned to have in our events, that we tried to kind of have participating to certain things. But yeah, the hardest, I think, was for this new team to feel completely, like nothing is actually real. I think that was the hardest, but luckily for us, they will probably have the opportunity. Some of them are still staying in Rotterdam next year. We still have a team, I think, on 15 people. I think a lot of them were master's students, so I think a lot of them are still, in their job on the job market now. But we still have, I think, 6 to 7 people that are still in Rotterdam and still willing to get really involved. So luckily we didn't. I think they're still motivated and they still want to do stuff, and maybe hopefully they will see the outcome of what they've worked on now, because so far it wasn't really tangible. And I think that's what's the hardest, is to feel like it's not really real,
Yeah, I get that.
So yeah.
So what about you? Are you gonna stay with Rethinking Rotterdam next year? I mean, you're gonna do your master's in Vienna. What are your plans for Rethinking?
Yeah, no, I I had to find someone to take over Rethinking. I think it was a good. I mean, it was. It's always hard when you create something to leave it behind, but and it was one of my biggest concern was to not find someone that would be willing to take over, because it's a big responsibility. The association is still very. I mean, the branch is still very new, and there's a lot of things that remains to be done. So it has to be sustained in time, and for that you need someone that is motivated enough and has the kind of guts that are necessary for that to happen. And so I was really concerned, very, very worried. And sometimes things happen at the right moment. It's very funny, because then I met Vera, and it was instantly. I was like, okay, she wants it, first of all, without saying it, but she wants it. And she has everything that she needs to get there. So I was like, okay, I have full confidence. I can finally, feel ready to give the association, I mean, at least the branch, to someone else, and carry on my own way. And I think it's good for an association to be in the hands of someone else, especially during these first years. I think it's always a good thing, because otherwise things remain done in the same way. And I think it's always good to have brand new eyes and start going in a different direction. as long as it's not opposite, right? But but in the continuation and have things done in different ways is always, I think it's going to be very productive and efficient. And yeah, I'm looking forward for what she's going to do. I think she has already a lot of plans in mind, and yeah, I'm very excited.
Cool. And then about the video project, you're gonna do the promotion. What are you planning to do?
Yeah, it's we still have to discuss it. We still have a meeting coming next Thursday, so it's still, we don't really know exactly what is going to be the the strategy we're going to take, but at least what we want to do is to make sure that it's everywhere, everywhere we can on the Rethinking Economics platforms. It's going to be launched on YouTube, that's for sure. We are going to promote it through social medias, probably newsletter if possible. And we also, our biggest goal is that those videos are used in an educational manner, right? We want it to be used by professors. So I think Vera is in contact already with some teachers for high school projects. So maybe we can try to get them there as well. If it's too complicated, we still want to have it at university. I have some contacts with some professors within Erasmus University, as well as some program coordinator and school council. So I'm really hoping that we can kind of, try to direct them towards maybe using them a little bit more, or at least introduce them to them such that they can at least share them with their students at the beginning of the course or something. So yeah, we kind of are thinking about ways to have it used as an educational tool, because that's what it is aimed for, first and foremost. So yeah.
And then you're moving on to your master and new things in economics. What are your plans? Any ideas?
I don't know yet. Honestly, I it's the first time I'm going to do something that is so interdisciplinary. So I don't know how much of my intellectual capacity is going to ask for me. So I'm kind of just, waiting patiently, getting started with some books and stuff, but I'm not getting engaged in any association work for now. Maybe later, but for now I'm just, trying to prepare what's coming for me, because of course, when you have spent, I've spent 3 years doing mainly the same thing over and over. It's always the same models. It's always the same way of doing it. It's just, so I'm kind of worried of what's coming next, because I know that I'm going to have so many different ways of learning. I'm going to have more qualitative subjects, more, quantitative. So all of those things, it's way more different ways of learning. So it's going to ask from my learning capacities a lot, way more. So I'm very excited, but I'm also a little bit worried because my brain hasn't been working that hard since 3 years, so so yeah, we'll see. For now, I'm just focusing on that, and that's it.
Cool. Okay, so let's do little lightning rounds. With every person, we do a little lightning round. So just say the first thing that pops in your head, okay?
Oh, I'm bad at this. I'm very bad at this.
We'll see. I bet you'll do great. Okay, so what is a skill any economist should learn?
Critical thinking.
Who do you admire or look up to in economics?
Kate Roberts is quite impressive. She has a very impressive speaker ability. Like she's a great speaker, and she's great thoughts as well. But yeah.
What is a quote or statistic that has always stuck with you?
I have bad memory, so I don't remember much. So a quote is a little bit too much to ask. I don't know.
That's fine. What is a question you want me to ask that I haven't asked you yet?
Nothing. You've been a great host. That's it.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet. So let's just ask, where can people find the things that you're enthusiastic about? What should people look into according to you?
Rethinking economics. And no, what can they look into? Exploring Economics is a great tool. I think it's from Rethinking Economics as well, but it's a website where they have all the resources that are, about economics, and it's brilliant. It's really well made, and you have everything you need there if you are, interested in economics, there's so much resources there, and we hope ours will be there as well. But it's a great tool, and yeah, just read books. I mean, come on, books are the best resources for economics as well as for many things. So yeah, reading books.
So, okay, so to finish it off, where do you see economics going?
Yeah, hopefully, for a brighter future where the environment is more often taken into account, and to a certain extent where also more maybe less educated and more normal people actually understand what's going on and feel like they have a power and a role to play. Because right now I feel like, and myself, when I say to people that I'm studying economics at university, people always feel like, oh, hard subject, I don't want to talk about it, don't even start. It's just, and that's a shame, because it rules the world. I mean, it is for a big part responsible for the world we live in. So it's important everyone has a role to play, and a word to say. So yeah.
And then finally, what do you want to say to future economists?
Listen to the young generation. Yeah, mostly this.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thank you for receiving me, and yeah, thank you.